Today on the We Invested podcast, we have Alex Sonkin, the founder of Due Diligence Project and Virtual Family Office Hub. Alex, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Wesley. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, man. Thank you so much for joining. We were having a pretty good conversation, man, before we started recording. So I'm looking forward to this interview, man. I'm excited for it.
Me too. Me too. Let's
And
do it.
before we get started, would you mind letting the people know how they can find you on the internet, whether it's websites or social media?
Yeah, we have two primary websites. Our primary point of contact is the Due Diligence Project. You can just go to duediligenceproject.com, duediligenceproject.com. Another website is VFO Hub, Virtual Family Office Hub.com, VFOHub.com. But Due Diligence Project is our primary point of contact.
Awesome, man. Awesome. So let's just start from the top, man, and talk a little bit about, where you're from and where you grew up.
Yeah, grew up in Chicago. Went to University of Michigan Business School and became an options trader down in Chicago. I was a member of the Chicago Board of Trade, the Chicago Mercantile Exchange, Chicago Board Options Exchange. So I used to make markets down there, two-sided markets, and kind of act as a casino for the world, and used to trade against Goldman Sachs and Bear Stearns and Lehman Brothers, banks that don't even exist anymore. And they would represent, billionaires and millionaires all over the world and come down the trading pits. And we used to have a lot of fun down there making markets, stuff that's now all computerized. So instead of hand signals, the market makers are using computers, which is a little bit different, but that's how I started.
Absolutely, man. And that's an incredible start, a very rich history, man. And it doesn't surprise me hearing that you're from the Midwest, because every person from the Midwest, Chicago, Iowa, everywhere from the Midwest, they've always been extremely nice and extremely like easy to talk to, man. So I definitely felt that vibe from you. But I want to ask, how did growing up in Chicago and getting started in the financial industry pretty early on, how did that impact your outlook on life and success?
Well, I got into the finance game because it was the biggest industry in the world, right? The biggest industry in the world is the money game. What is that? A multi-trillion-dollar industry. And I was fascinated. I read the books Market Wizards 1, Market Wizards 2, and I thought, man, if I could be a trader, that would be the coolest thing in the world. So going to University of Michigan, getting a finance degree, getting jobs as a trader, that seemed so exciting. And then being a trader taught me about risk reward, taught me about not wanting to lose money. And the more I traded, the more I realized you can work really, really hard and still have a negative day, have a negative week. And then I realized, as I got into more finance, and understood that there's this component of finance, this income tax component, estate tax component, where these tax attorneys were able to creatively, combine strategies and eliminate tax. To me, that was very similar to options trading. And in options trading, you can, sell some calls, buy some puts, buy some more calls, and create this structure where if you buy certain options, sell certain options, you could capture riskless profit. You could really create arbitrage. And so the idea of creating riskless profit or arbitrage trading using tax strategies were really interesting to me. And 30 years ago, I had no experience in tax. And then over the last 15 plus years, it's been really, really heavy tax. And we've been able to build the largest, community of tax geeks we had 847 CPA firms participate in our due diligence project summit, which was an independent peer review, where our idea was, because the tax code is so deep, so thick, so wide, constantly changing, it seems like no one has a good grasp on it. And the reason we know no one has a good grasp on it is because we identified that only 18% of Fortune 500 companies owned by billionaires are able to zero out their tax returns, meaning 82% of the most profitable companies in the world, they are paying way too much tax. And when we look at multi-billion dollar family offices, we see virtually the same statistics. 1 out of 5 family offices is what we would consider to be tax efficient. 4 out of 5 are not efficient at all. They're paying way overpaying in tax. And so our question was, why was this happening? And how do we bridge that gap? And what we found was the issue was the tax code is too big. It's too deep, constantly changing. No CPA firm, no CPA knows how many pages there are in the tax code. And they don't have the resources. They don't know where to go. Who is the thought leader in this area of tax planning to go and ask my questions and have them answer my questions honestly so I can complete my due diligence and find really, really good tax strategies in a tax code where we don't even know how many pages there are in this thing.
Absolutely, man. And, like you said, the tax code and just a general understanding of tax, it can seem like a foreign language to most people just because, the average person does not have much interaction with that. And, what you're doing is bringing it to the forefront and bringing those thought leaders to the forefront. It's something else that I really admire about this is that you were able to niche down, which is, I think, a very important piece of business, being able to find a niche and solve the problems that most people don't want to think about, or to solve the problems that most people are afraid to approach. So, with that being said, I think this is a great segue into just understanding more and asking and learning about these companies that you've grown and built today. And I want to ask, what is the Due Diligence Project and the Virtual Family Office?
Yeah, so great question. We didn't even, when we first started doing this, we didn't realize there was this big of a problem. We started doing these advanced tax planning institutes, these live events where we would invite, we would invite 30, 40, 50 CPA firms from the country. And then we would invite the top tax attorneys, the top specialists and ESOPs and captives and all sorts of different unique tax strategies. And we've been doing this for over 15 years. And what would happen is these really elite CPAs and these really elite tax attorneys or specialists would have these conversations in the hallways. And in the hallways of these conferences, in the middle of these conversations, the Q&A that would happen would spark additional questions, would spark additional conversations, and we would literally create solutions in the hallways. And the idea was, wow, combining these incredible CPA minds, incredible tax attorney minds, putting them together, we realized that this needed to happen more and more and more, and it really wasn't happening. And the more we got involved with family offices, with CPA firms, we really saw there's a humongous disconnect. How come these top CPAs didn't know about all these strategies? They've never heard of them before. And the more we would build relationships with elite CPA firms, elite family offices, we realized they really only had access to a few ideas, a few tax strategies, because the IRS was spreading them so thin just to produce tax returns. They didn't have time to do the due diligence on the tax strategies. So when we realized this, we said, how do we solve this problem? Because tax attorneys are not allowed to go out there and publicly share their unique tax strategies with the public. Then you have the traditional business owner. He wants all these tax strategies. He goes to their CPA and there's like, what are some of these really good tax ideas? And the CPA doesn't have any answers for him. So, and then what the clients end up doing, the business owners end up doing, is they end up going to their estate planning attorney, their financial advisors, all sorts of financial people who they think are these financial experts, and they ask them what they think about tax planning, and they're getting all sorts of different answers, and most of these answers are really just not good at all. So, because the only people that should be really providing those answers are the CPA, and the CPA spreads so thin, they don't have access to the ideas. So what we really found was income tax planning was just awful in this country. It wasn't good. It wasn't average. It was like awful because the CPA was overwhelmed just trying to produce a tax return. So our idea was, hey, let's support the CPA. Let's show the CPA how to outsource a lot of this work. Let's plug them in and let's build this independent peer review community where in the beginning we just had 20, 30 CPAs. Now, fast forward 15 plus years, we had 847 CPAs participate in our summit. We have 10 members who are former KPMG, Deloitte. Arthur Andersen, Ernst & Young, Big Four tax partners. The community's exploded and it's global. So our idea is like Amazon and Netflix. Let's have every independent CPA or family office leader introduce their favorite tax attorneys, favorite specialists into the hub, and let everyone else vet, interview, rip apart every strategy, rip apart every single specialist, every single tax attorney, and then rank and rate each strategy based on ROI, net of cost, net of risk. For a CPA to get comfortable with sophisticated tax structure, some of them will ask hundreds of questions. Some of them will do 300, 400 hours of independent due diligence. Some CPAs will spend 80 hours. Some CPAs will spend 300, 400 hours. But if we have 400 CPA firms doing due diligence on all sorts of tax strategies, with some spending 300, 400 hours, some spending 10, 20 hours, at the end of the day, we're going to get this ranking and rating from people who have 10,000, 50,000 hours of experience in tax court, in audit, which does not include financial advisors. It doesn't include estate planning attorneys. It doesn't include bankers or M&A advisors, right? Who are these people who have experience in audit and tax court? They're tax-focused CPAs. So now these people who have experience with the IRS, audit, tax court, are looking at a tax strategy with a completely different viewpoint, right? From a risk viewpoint. I don't want this to go to audit. I don't want this to go to tax court. So they're going to ask a million questions until they're satisfied. And what they get from the due diligence projects is they get all the Q&A notes that we've been compiling for the last 15 years. So let me show you a new tax strategy. Let me show you a charitable tax strategy. Let me show you this finance business insurance strategy. Let me show you all the Q&A that hundreds of CPA firms have asked and have been answered by the experts. Then you're going to take these notes, go back in the tax code, maybe reach out back to us, maybe reach out to the specialist, ask your 3, 4, 5 questions, and we're going to help you complete your due diligence in 1/10 the time and give you 10x more confidence when your due diligence has been completed.
Wow. I mean, that's incredible, man. And just how you're being so innovative in this space and actually sticking up for the CPAs and focusing on backing the accountants, because I mean, this is the first time I've heard of anything like this. Usually, usually in the finance industry, people aren't fond of talking to CPAs or they're not excited about it because they know, or you have this like preconceived notion that like it's just an extremely confusing topic to understand.
They fight the CPA because they don't understand the issues that the CPA is facing. They don't really understand that the CPA wants to help their client. And the CPA they're trained in a completely different way from the rest of the entire finance world. So what we found is there are elite CPAs who are masters of finance. But what's very, very rare, like for instance, the CFO of the company that my wife runs, who is actually our family office guy, he's an elite CFO, tremendous experience, but his tax knowledge is virtually nothing because finance people are not trained in tax.
Right.
They're just not trained in income tax. The only people that are trained in income tax, and they seem to know very little about it, are the CPAs. And so, but they're the ones who are trained there. And so if we give them the support and we give them access to, because you could take a tax person and teach them finance, but it's very, very hard to teach a finance person tax because tax is so specialized. It's so deep. So, my advice to like young kids, if you want to really get into finance, start with tax and get very, very specialized there, because you can get a lot of general knowledge and learn the finance field much easier. It's really hard to become an expert. It took me, like I said, I'm still swimming and learning. I've been doing this for 15 years. And what I find is that some of the top CPAs in the country, some of the top tax-focused people in the country, it's an unlimited amount of tax code that they don't know, but they have the ability to learn it. And all we need to do is bring them the specialist, bring them the Q&A, bring them the notes. They'll rip it apart if they want to really help their client. And they're in a position where they can really look at these notes and really get to the bottom line of, is this really a risky strategy or not? Especially when they are able to talk to other CPAs and other specialists and really get this community feel, because CPAs get comfortable when they talk to other elite CPAs who've been carrying the bag, who have had who've had experience in audit, have had experience in tax court, because maybe that CPA has not had 50,000 hours of audit experience or tax court experience. They want to talk to maybe 10, 20 other CPAs who have, look at that strategy, look at the tax code, look at the notes, look at the strategy, speak to the specialist until they're even close to completing their due diligence. It's a process. And unless they complete that due diligence, guess what their answer is going to be? No, don't do the strategy. It's too risky, or I don't understand, or I'm not comfortable.
Absolutely. One thing I respect and admire about, the companies that you've built, in 2023, information is currency, like it's the new currency. And so you found a way to compile this information from the brightest minds in the tax field, in the financial industry, and document it. And it's like, it's I don't know, it's history and it's future at the same time, because people can look back at the notes. People can look back at what people or what different CPAs and tax attorneys thought, what their ideas were, and then continue to build on those and move the entire industry forward.
I'm just, I just recognize patterns, right? So even though this is innovative, it's really a copy of other people to a certain extent. When we first started doing this, we didn't realize what we were doing is we were recreating the internal systems of Amazon and Netflix, right? What Amazon does, what Netflix independent peer review does is revolutionary, right? Amazon started with books, because you can't put every single book title in a Barnes and Noble, right? And his idea was, hey, I'm going to start with books. We can put every single book title in an Amazon.com website. And then the big aha moment for Jeff Bezos was, hey, let's create independent peer review, so that when people buy this book, they're going to buy a book with 4.9 stars based on millions of people reviewing that book. That was the aha moment. Same thing with Netflix and all the competing streaming services. They have these, you can watch movies with 7 out of 10 stars, as opposed to going to Blockbuster and going, I have no idea if my wife and I are going to watch this, enjoy this movie or not. The same thing happens with tax planning. The tax code is how many pages long? No one knows. How many tax strategies are in there? Nobody knows. What's the best tax strategy for if I'm selling an appreciated piece of property, selling my company, what's the best tax strategy for me? Like if you ask 25 CPAs what's the best tax strategy, you might get 23 different answers. Or you might just get, just pay your tax, you're in a low tax bracket, it's just capital gains, you're fine. Whereas there's really a lot of different answers, but unless those CPAs have access to those tax strategies and have done their independent peer review and have really talked to those specialists, talked to their CPAs, looked at the tax code, if they don't see those as possible answers, all of a sudden they're just looking with, these goggles, and they only see 3 different solutions. And if those 3 solutions don't work, that's it, pay your tax. So our idea is, let's show this tax strategy to hundreds and hundreds of independent CPAs. Let's have them really review it. Let's have them talk to the specialists. And let's really get to the bottom line is, what's really going to happen in audit? What's really going to happen in tax court? No one wants to go there, but if it did go there, would we win or not? And why would we go there? So once we really get to the granular points of these tax strategies, CPAs get very, very comfortable or uncomfortable with the tax strategy. And we decide, hey, do we want to keep this or throw it out? And we're going to let the CPAs decide which tax strategies are risky or that we're going to throw out, which ones don't work, and which ones are amazing with in terms of ROI, net of cost, net of risk. Maybe they're just sophisticated. Maybe they're just complicated. But when you really break them down, there's really very little risk of audit and tax court. And maybe the only complication is that they're complicated, which is fine. Mm-hmm. So then it's just marrying those tax structures with the client's fact pattern and their ability to deal with sophistication or not. Some clients are like, hey, I'll just pay the tax. That's what money's for. I got so much money, I don't need to think about this anymore. I'm going to pay the tax. Don't need to think about it, move on with my life. Awesome. But some clients want to be super efficient. And they don't want to go to jail. They want to sleep at night. They want their CPA to show them every single thing, turn over every rock. Those are the CPAs we look for in the due diligence project to bring their clients the very, very best strategies, net of cost, net of risk, that have been reviewed by hundreds of CPAs. And the reason we really like CPAs is they're tax, they're risk averse. They keep us out of trouble. They keep their clients out of trouble. They keep themselves out of trouble. But at the same time, they want to bring value to the table.
Absolutely. I mean, and also I see the due diligence project building community, building that sense of togetherness, and also providing peace of mind for, the CPA that may be just getting started out and wants to learn from a more experienced CPA. So you're giving you're connecting the gaps and like building a bridge in many different aspects.
Because what we're seeing is CPAs are being drawn into the whole marketing and fancy world of, here, let's use this sales tactic, let's use these marketing tactics, but that stuff only works so far. Business owners, millionaires, centimillionaires, multimillionaires, billionaires, they don't want marketing. They want the goods. They want ideas. They want great stuff. They want the bottom line, right? And at the end of the day, we're not showing, we're showing the CPAs, look, here's how you bring real value to your business owner. Help them eliminate this problem, help them eliminate cost, help them eliminate tax, help them eliminate these unnecessary expenses, and reduce their overall risk exposure. And the due diligence project, this community, you said something earlier, we really champion, we're all about the CPA, and we really are, because we know how hard CPAs work. They've got a huge heart. That's why when we build these virtual family offices, we're not building them under money managers or stockbrokers, which is what Wall Street is, right? Wall Street built investment banks underneath stockbrokers. We're not interested in that. We're interested in building these family offices underneath the most trusted tax advisor, which in our world is the CPA, and all these other resources, M&A services, money management, all these other services are more commoditized, where really the only specialized thing that we kind of see is the tax income and estate tax planning is really specialized, because there's so many creative ways of doing it, and there's so few people doing it at a very, very high level. So our firm is here to take these elite CPAs, elite family office people who are tax-focused advisors, give them access to the very, very best resources who have all been vetted out by hundreds and hundreds of independent tax-focused CPAs or tax leaders of family offices, and give them that confidence that they're truly working with the best of the best who have been vetted out by their peers and who've been ranked and rated. Outside of this ranking and rating system, it's like, how do we know that this tax attorney is really the best in the specialty? Do they have experience? Are they providing, continuing education? Are they really a thought leader in the space, or are they just a fancy marketer? Because what are we really doing? We want to differentiate between the true thought leaders and the fancy marketers, because that's what business owners are having trouble differentiating between. CPAs, everyone's having this trouble. But the independent peer review, at the end of the day, these specialists, they can market all they want. At the end of the day, they have to do the work, and they're going to do work with someone. And what we believe is the CPAs are the best ones to look at that work, look at the quality of the work. How did they work with me? How did they treat me? How did they treat my client? What was the result? How much risk did we take? Then let's rank and rate this across the board, across all of their competitors, and say, this specialist, where do they really rank in America, in the world, in their specialty? We want to put them in that spot. And if they're truly the best, then we may have to move someone else down the list.
What does the CPA firm of the future look like to you?
So the CPA firm of the future, they're outsourcing everything except for the two things that the CPA firm of the future is doing, is attracting ideal clients and delivering value to those ideal clients. They've outsourced the work. And what those clients really want from the CPA firm of the future is two things. They want one point of contact. They don't want to make 17 phone calls because that's inefficient. Because when they make 17 phone calls to different advisors, different CPAs, different attorneys, their partner CPA, the partners advisor, they're going to get 17 different answers, and they're not qualified to sift through all these 17. They think they're qualified because they're the millionaire, billionaire of the bunch. But how much experience do they really have in tax court and audit to go through all these answers and go, no, I don't like this strategy. I like this other strategy. That sounds better to me. Based on what? Have you ever been to Mars? You've never been to Mars. Have you ever been in audit and tax court? Do you have 50,000 hours of experience in audit and tax court? No, you have no clue how the IRS looks at this. No clue. So let's let the tax-focused specialists really do the work on this, and let's let them bring in who they consider. Let's have hundreds and hundreds of independent CPAs review all sorts of tax strategies, all sorts of tax attorneys and specialists. Let them vet out and pick the best resources across these areas, and let's use those resources and this incredible power of this community, as you mentioned, to show us the best strategies, and then combine those best strategies to create the best possible overall plan for this particular client based on their situation and based on their goals in numerical order 1 through 5. So when you have this hierarchy of solutions on one side that have all been vetted out independently, peer reviewed, and then you have clients on this side supported by their lead CPA firms or family offices who understand their goals in numerical order, and we're in the middle here in the virtual family office hub with all these solutions, all these specialists, it's really easy for us to solve these problems. When a CPA firm's just on their own with their clients and they have no idea who the best strategies are, where the best tax attorneys are and all these different things, how do they bridge this gap? They don't. And that's the current environment of tax planning. It is not efficient, it's disjointed, and the results are all over the place.
What are some common mistakes that you see that occur inside of family offices?
What I see is, you made this point earlier, right? Let's say you're the business owner, and there's family offices now. There used to be family offices that are like just, we're managing a $500 million net worth family. Now we're building family offices for $50 million net worth families, $40 million net worth families. So there's a lot more family offices out there. Here's what we're seeing. The patriarch matrix, the business owners of these family offices, these very wealthy families, they want answers, right? They want due diligence. They want strategies. And they look at their financial advisors, estate planning attorneys, all these, their bankers. They look at all these people as their finance people, and they can't differentiate between their CPA and their advisor and their attorney. They all look the same. So everyone is giving them all these ideas. But the only people that have 10,000 hours of experience in audit and tax court is their CPA. Their financial advisor has no clue what happens in audit and tax court. Their estate planning attorney may have almost no experience there. Yet they're giving all this tax advice, and the business owner is very, very confused. They don't realize that they really need to differentiate. It's like, God forbid, their child is really, really sick. You're not just going to go to a general practitioner and hope that this general practitioner happens to be a specialist in the area where your child is sick. No, you're going to go and try to find the best specialist in the world in that specialty to get them to solve this problem. The same thing has to happen in tax. And most business owners, they just see all these financial professionals and they're like the same, but they're not the same. This is a humongous problem when everyone needs to be taught to stay in their lane, right? The advisors, if they don't have experience in income tax, they should say, look, this is an income tax question. I defer to your CPA on this. That would make the advisor look so good. But most advisors don't answer that way, right? They want to be the smartest guy in the room. So they're just going to give their opinion. How much experience do you have? What's behind that opinion? We have no idea. So what we're doing is we're saying, look, these are CPAs. They have licenses. They have to sign a tax return. They have this experience in audit and tax court. Let's do all the education there. Let's support these tax-focused advisors. Let's give them access to all this knowledge so that they can bring the very, very best ideas to their clients. They're risk averse. traditionally. They're not going to oversell. They want to keep their clients away from trouble. So let's do the education there. Let's show them all the strategies. Let's show them all the rankings and the ratings. Let's answer their questions. And the ones who want to bring this value to their clients, we're going to start there and we're going to end there, because their clients are not going to understand these sophisticated tax strategies anyway. They're going to want all the benefits of it. They're going to love the benefits, but they're not going to understand, how are we getting these benefits? Why does this make sense? How does the IRS feel about this? And that's why they really rely on their tax advisor to kind of hold their hand through this. And that's why we're here to support their tax advisor.
There are a few common themes that I'm hearing throughout this interview and throughout our conversation. I guess, and the one that jumps out to me the most is, I guess it's two. So problem solving and efficiency. And you use that word resonates with me a lot. I hear that word quite often, efficiency. But I made a post on Facebook a couple of days ago, just talking about how to become successful, how to make a huge impact. You have to be able to not only think for yourself, but you have to be able to think for others. And the more people that you can think for and provide solutions for, the more impactful you will be as a person, your business and company will be. And it's amazing to hear, just to hear you talk, man, and hear how, the ideas that you develop impact CPAs, impacts family offices, impacts business owners. It impacts just about every sector within the financial industry, which I mean is extremely incredible and impressive. And I want to ask and learn more about, how did you develop this business acumen and your business IQ, and being observant and able to look for ways to make things more efficient, run more efficiently?
That's a good question. I think, my parents were engineers, and I have a little bit of engineering brain. And as an options trader, as a floor trader, I learned to recognize patterns. Patterns always repeat themselves, So having a little bit of engineering brain, not too much engineering brain, allowed me to really see what was out there, kind of break apart the whole tax planning world. It took me a long time to really understand where the problem was. And someone very smart a long time ago told me, look, Alex, if you want to make a lot of money, you solve big problems. If you want to make a little bit of money, solve little problems. And I just thought about that. I'm like, that makes a lot of sense. So the first thing is to identify the big problem, right? It took me years to become a master of something, right? You want to, you have that 10,000 hour rule, right? And we have that same, I keep talking about 10,000 hours of experience in tax, because until you've reached that 10,000 hours of experience in audit and tax court, you're not a master of it. Once you invest 10,000 hours in any subject matter, you become a master to the point where you start to identify inefficiencies and problems. And once I spent that amount of time in this space, I realized there's a humongous problem with CPAs, what they were lacking. And I just got lucky in that we were already solving that problem without even knowing it. And as we were solving it, we realized the problem was much bigger than we ever thought. And then we realized we actually had the answer. And then when we realized that we could actually model Amazon and Netflix and be the first Amazon intermediary between, in our world, the clients are the CPAs, and the products are all these strategies and tax attorneys, and we're the Amazon in between. And all we're doing is facilitating the independent peer review. I'm like, this is brilliant model, because it works for Amazon, it works for Netflix. This is exactly the same formula, and no one else is doing it. No one's doing it. So then I realized the entire financial service industry, who built the whole financial service industry? Wall Street. How did they build it? They built it with silos. Goldman Sachs does not want you to see what JP Morgan's doing. JP Morgan doesn't want you to see what Morgan Stanley's doing. So they're kind of creating the opposite of open source, right? They're creating these closed silos. Where's the world going? Open source, right? So we're going, why don't we build this open source model and blow up the entire financial services industry, which is trying to be a silo closed model, and let the CPA who's trying to open this up for their client, because their client wants all the ideas. They don't want just Goldman Sachs ideas. Can I see all the ideas? No, we're going to just give you Goldman Sachs ideas. Why? Because Goldman Sachs, we're the best. You don't need to see what Morgan Stanley's doing. You don't see what JP Morgan's doing. Just trust us. We're Goldman Sachs, which was fine. It was fine when we were growing up, but now it's not fine. We want open source peer review. That's where the world's going. But the financial services industry is trying to hold, they're trying to maintain its inefficiencies for themselves, because most businesses, they enjoy a little bit of corruption, because inside that corruption, it allows them to create these huge spreads and huge profit margins, where the open source opens everything up. So Amazon figured out how to create open source, Netflix to a certain degree. So we just created that same thing, and we're just saying, look, let's let the CPAs drive this. And we're going to continue to add, all we're doing is adding more and more CPAs every year. So we're like a snowball that's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. We were first, we're the biggest, we continue to be the biggest, and we continue growing. So we're continuing to grow. The refinement of the due diligence continues to grow. Our lead over second place continues to grow, because there's no second place, because no one else is doing this, because we're in the financial service industry, and the financial service industry is just still going, no. Let me tell you what, we got the best stuff. We're the best over here at Deloitte. We're the best over here at KPMG. We're the best over here at Anderson, and don't go over there because we're the best. That client doesn't want that anymore. What they actually want is, they want their lead tax advisor plugged into the virtual family office hub, plugged into the due diligence project, which has access to best-in-class peer reviewed. So now we could build a family office with a tax-focused leader, and now build that family office out like Legos, with the very, very best Legos, peer reviewed by the best network, biggest network of tax-focused CPAs in the world. And now each Lego piece is the best Lego piece for that particular section of that Lego puzzle. And we can just build out this Lego puzzle using the best pieces, best structures in the world, as opposed to what previously was done, was building family offices with people who want to work inside this family office W-2. Do you want to move to San Francisco and work inside our family office? No, I don't like San Francisco. Okay, great. Well, we are limited to the people who want to work inside our family office, who want to be W-2, who are comfortable with this salary structure. Are those the best people in the world working in this family office? I'm going to say no. I'm going to say the best specialists in the world don't want to be W-2. They don't want to live in a specific city. They want to live wherever they want to live. Maybe they want to live in Dubai. Maybe they want to be in New York. Maybe they want to be in San Diego, Florida. I have no idea. They want to be all over the place. And because they're the best at what they do, they get to choose wherever they want to live. Now our virtual family offices can pick these specialists, and they could be anywhere. And now we have their brain, because the world is flat. And that's what's going on, is we want to build these boardrooms. We want to build these family offices. We want to bring the smartest people in the world in their specialty to the CPA who is working on this complicated tax structure for some billionaire, multimillionaire, centimillionaire. And this way we have the smartest people in the world working on all these situations, and we're truly supporting the CPA being risk averse and bringing the best value, net of cost, net of risk, to every kind of puzzle that we need to solve.
How did you focus on building and creating these meaningful connections and these meaningful relationships, and building this large network? I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I believe you mentioned that you had over 847 CPAs, within your network. So how did you focus on building these relationships?
One at a time, one at a time. It's you can't build CPA relationships. It's like human relationships. It's hard to build relationships 2-3 people at a time. These happen one at a time, and it takes time to build these relationships. So we've just been doing the same thing. And what's great is, the same way we've built this community is the same way we teach our elite CPAs to build their community, and say, look, we're giving you the same resources that we had to build this humongous community, except the difference is you get us. I don't have the benefit of having me supporting me. I am me, right? So my CPAs get all of my resources, plus they get me, and they get the strategy and they get the whole concept. This is what we do. We built this platform, and then we're taking elite CPAs, training them, putting them on our platform, and then giving them that platform in their parts of the world, saying you can allow other attorneys, other CPAs, other tax professionals, other advisors to operate on your Amazon platform where you're the leader. But what makes you the leader of your local regional platform is you've been trained on the concept, you've been trained on this model, but you've been trained and you've completed your due diligence on a number of really, really cool tax strategies that local advisors, local estate planning attorneys, local CPAs have no clue even exist. And all the business owners want what you got. And they want to know how you completed the due diligence. They want to see the due diligence. They want to understand the due diligence. They want their questions answered because they want to bring these ideas to their clients too. But they don't have time to read this tax code that's 1 million pages long. They want to go to which subsections of the tax code. They want to be able to complete this in 10x less time and have 10x times more confidence. But without the due diligence project network, it's going to be very difficult for them to get that done.
What are some of the roadblocks or lessons that you've learned throughout your journey as a creator, entrepreneur, business owner?
One of the things I learned was to write down my goals, write down my goals and revisit them and think about my goals daily. Another lesson I learned is, align myself with a greater purpose. And, we don't just do this to be successful. We don't just do this to make money. We're doing this to build communities. We're doing this because when we help these business owners, the money will stay in the community. Some of the planning we're doing are helping charities. There's charities that we've been able to help that help sick children. Some of the charities that we've been able to help, we've been able to raise well over $100 million for certain charities that help sick children, where these sick children in the last year, the last 6 months of their life, we've been able to make their lives better. We've been able to help their families. Their parents can't even go to work because they're sitting at home taking care of their sick children. They don't have money for medical bills. And some of the charities we work with are able to benefit these families. So one of the things I wanted to do was align what we're doing in our business world with being able to help the community. And so the fact that some of these income tax mitigation structures, wealth building structures are all designed to benefit the community, and some happen to be actually benefiting charities, we feel really, really good about. And the people, the actual business owners that come through the CPAs that we end up meeting and working with, these are really, really great people. They do great things in their community. They're creating jobs. So we are, making changes in these communities and take on a multi-generational level, because some of the planning we're doing is massive and creating benefits for many, many generations down the road.
Man, one of the things I appreciate while talking to you or from this conversation is the passion that you have for what you do. The passion that you have for helping humanity and make it and helping leave it better than you found it. I believe that's the quote. But you love sharing this information, and I can feel the importance, the importance that it has for you to get it out and share it with the world. I mean, you've authored a book, The Due Diligence Project. You also host the Due Diligence Project podcast, which I think is incredible. But, would you mind telling me a little bit more about the vision behind the book, The Due Diligence Project? What was the idea behind that?
Yeah, we wanted to really we wanted to make the connection. We wanted to show people what we were doing, how tax planning was very similar to Amazon and Netflix and the independent peer review, how that was important. We really just wanted to show people how difficult tax planning was. The book is really written for the CPAs, but we know a lot of business owners have been able to pick it up and really understand what their CPA is dealing with, because the business owner doesn't understand what the CPA is dealing with and how unique their CPA really is or can be. And so the book idea is, it's really to champion the CPA. It's saying, look, the CPA is spread so thin, but there's a way to supercharge. It's kind of like buying this Ferrari or buying this amazing cell phone, right? You buy this cell phone, let's say it's gold plated, let's say it's does all these things, but unless you're plugged into the biggest, most vibrant network in the world, if you're just plugged into Joe's cell phone network, you're just going to get whatever's on that Joe's cell phone network. We're saying, hey, if you take this cell phone and plug it in the most vibrant network in the world, it'll uncover all these apps. It'll cover all sorts of things that you can do with this cell phone. Your cell phone's way more valuable than you think it is. And we make that analogy really to the CPA. Your CPA could be so much more valuable to you as a business owner if you just plug them into this network and make their due diligence more efficient, because they want it to be more efficient. They're just spread so thin. And sometimes it's not their fault. They just need to figure out, hey, let's get rid of our bottom 30-40% of our clients where we make no money. They take all of our time. Let's outsource the bookkeeping. Let's outsource all the busy work. Let's outsource all the stuff where we're not making any money. The clients don't want tax returns. They don't want financial statements. Those are things that they just need. There's no money. They don't want anything. They don't want anything. They want ideas. So how do we free up the CPA's time and monetize that time so they can come up and bring their clients these ideas, which is really what they want? And that's really what this is all about, is taking CPAs who have huge hearts, helping them make a lot more money with just bringing ideas to their clients, which is really what those clients want, and then outsourcing the rest of that so they can create time and space to be more meaningful. Because CPAs aren't just doing this for the money, obviously. They are doing this for the thank yous. They're doing this to make a difference in their clients' lives, which is why we're so attracted to them. They've got huge heart. So by really helping these amazing CPAs, we become better people. I've become a better person because I'm just here to help the CPA.
Absolutely, man. And where can the listeners purchase a copy of the Due Diligence Project?
Yeah, they can go on Amazon and find Due Diligence Project book. Google Due Diligence Project with my name, Alex Sonkin. You can obviously get it through duediligenceproject.com as well. There's links there as well.
Absolutely. How do you define success as an entrepreneur and as a business owner at this point in your career?
It's a great question. I was listening to Gary Vaynerchuk, who's out there, and him and I are both born in the same country, and came here as immigrants. And so I listened to him a little bit, but he defines success as, work really hard until you're really proud of yourself. And I like that. I like that. And everyone knows there's a certain thing that you're going to accomplish, or maybe it's an area. Just work hard, just keep going hard until you look at yourself and be like, man, look how far you come, and be proud of yourself. And that's the lesson. Is I'm my biggest critic. I have to satisfy my own goals, my own bars. I have to reach certain levels until I'm proud of myself, and I'm just going to keep going until I hit those marks. So I could tell you in the last year or two, I've finally hit some points where I'm like, you know what, I'm kind of proud of myself for the first time in my life. But it's taken me now, I'm 50 years old, taken me to this point to get there. So I've been working pretty hard, not feeling proud of myself, but then once you get there, you got to keep going. Got to keep setting goals and keep going hard, because you can't stop, because it becomes, being helpful and providing value to the world is like my lifeline. I don't ever see myself stopping trying to make the world a better place, because as soon as I do that, I think I'm dead.
What does the future of the Due Diligence Project look like to you? What is your vision of the future, and how do you plan to get the company there?
We love what we're doing. We're doing exactly what we tell our clients to do: attract ideal clients, bring value to those ideal clients. So we continue to add more amazing CPA firms, and we're just adding more every year. We're adding new ideas every year. New strategies are coming to us every year. We're educating the new CPAs. We're getting them on the program. Our CPAs their lives are changing. we are changing the lives of the CPA firms that work with us. They are making way more money working with us than they did before. They're creating way more value for their clients than they did before. They're spending less time. Some of them are spending more time because they just enjoy it so much. But we want them to spend less time at work, more time with what's most important to them, by helping them monetize the value that they're bringing to their clients. So we just want to keep doing what we're doing, and we want to keep growing. And I'm going to keep doing this until it's not fun anymore. But we're having a blast. So we love where we're at right now, and the growth rate that we're experiencing is maintainable. And so we just want to keep growing and doing what we're doing and making a difference in the world.
Absolutely, man. Alex, thank you so much for your time today, man. Thank you for sharing your passions with us and, giving us a chance to pick your brain and just learn more, man. I feel like you've given a lot of good information and good knowledge throughout this episode, man. So thank you for coming.
Wesley, I really appreciate your energy. I thought this interview was super fun. The questions are great. You've got a huge heart. It really comes through this interview, and I've really enjoyed it. Thanks so much for having me on your show.
Awesome, man.